Eliza Bournet, an associate editor of BookPage here at Parnassus Books in Nashville with Ann Shayne, who is one of the earliest editors of BookPage. We are so excited. She's written her debut novel, Bowling Avenue, which takes place in Nashville. You can probably hear the bustle in the background of the opening book party. So first, could you just tell me about when you got the idea to write Bowling Avenue? It takes place during the Nashville flood. Was there ever a moment during the storm when you were like, this is horrible, but it would make an awesome story?
Well, I started thinking about, well, first of all, the flood was a huge event for anybody who lived in Nashville. I think anybody you talk to here has a flood story. I mean, absolutely. And so it doesn't take much imagination to think about how you could make a flood a part of a story. But I started it because there was a house in our neighborhood that was for sale. And when I drive around town all the time, and I really do drive around constantly, I noticed there was a woman sitting in the backyard of this house that was for sale every day. And I would see her there for weeks, and she really didn't do anything except sit in the backyard of the house. And I think she was there to sell the house because it was otherwise vacant. And that just totally captured my imagination, and that's where the story starts, with a young woman who has to come back to Nashville to sell her sister's house. So that's where it starts.
So this is really a character novel. That's what makes it so fun to read, is these kind of wacky family members who all come together, and people from the past who are coming back in this woman's life who comes back to Nashville to sell her sister's house. Could you just run down kind of the cast list, introduce readers to the crazy characters?
The narrator is a young woman named Delia Ballinger, who is she's 31. She fled Nashville with her hands flapping above her head in total horror when she went to college, and she never came back. And one of the main reasons is her mother, Grace Ballinger, who is another big character. And she actually will visual aids in the middle of this. This is the back of the book. And so on the back, you have all the characters. And this is Mrs. Ballinger, who's actually Judge Ballinger. She's a federal judge, and she's a complete force of nature, for good and for Delia ill.
We meet her in an evening gown.
Yeah, she's going off to a dinner, and she meets Delia in the front yard of the sister's house. Then she also meets Angus Donald, who is another neighbor who comes wandering up the driveway. He's a completely mysterious and strange character, about 8 feet tall and about 130 pounds. So he's sort of a scarecrow kind of a guy. Then the brother-in-law Bennett, who's an orthopedic surgeon and basically completely rodent-like character. He's very, he's a surgeon. He's underground at the hospital. He's, kind of pale and dark-haired. And then there are the two sisters. These are Cassie and Amelia are the daughters of Jenna, the sister who died. So they're not orphans, but it sure feels like it sometimes. And then Shelley is the housekeeper who raised Delia. She shows up quickly, as Shelley typically does. Very quiet personality. And then finally, not long after Delia arrives in town, Henry Peake shows up. And Henry Peake is a real estate agent that his mother has sent over to sell the house for Delia. And Delia's not happy about that.
Was there a character that was the most fun for you to invent?
Well, that's a good question. I would say each of them got to be more and more fun the longer I spent time with them. The more you get to know them, the more they become interesting. And so they each have something about them that I really enjoy delving into. They're all completely grief-stricken in one way or another after the loss of Delia's sister. But none of them are dealing with it very well. So that's good.
Well, have you had any neighbors or friends knocking down your door trying to figure out which characters are based on real people?
Yeah, I'll let them figure that out for a long time. Some of the guesses people have said are completely astonishing to me. I would never have thought a lot of these were. I don't know. They're all amalgams. Not a one of them is anything like a real person that I know. But there's no way you can write a novel and not have people who somehow resemble people that you know. So I'll let people can wonder about that all day.
Well, you're obviously an avid book lover and a reader. Was there anything about writing a novel that surprised you?
Oh, a lot of things surprised me. The biggest surprise is once you start writing a novel and you really engage with it, you become completely schizophrenic. I mean, you literally have another world that's in the side of your head at all times. If you're writing every day and you're exploring these people's lives, and once those characters are real in your head, they're as real as, you know, my husband. So there are times where you're talking to somebody and you are not really talking to them because you have your characters in your head or something that you realize you need to be writing about.
Can you describe a favorite scene from the book?
You know, there are a lot of scenes, and it's been really hard talking to people about this book in a way because it's so surprise-based, or so, the things that happen in the book. You know, John Updike once wrote a really great piece about, like, his 6 rules of criticism, and he says one thing is to really not give away the plot in the review, if you can at all help it. Because as a writer, it just kills you to see, you know, your beautiful, intricate little clever thing that happens on page 284. You just get blown just like that. So, I mean, I guess, so if I tell you certain scenes, then I will have told you half the story. But that said, there's some of the moments where Delia is having to have conversations with people that she doesn't really like, and trying to see her parse her way through some really uncomfortable conversations was really, really fun to write.
So Delia, the main character, cuts out of Nashville as fast as she can, like you said, and dreads coming back. You obviously stuck around after growing up here. How come?
Actually, I left, and after college I moved to New York and worked in book publishing for about 5 years, and I came back fairly reluctantly, but with great joy, because I was marrying my husband, and he was going to be going to law school at Vanderbilt. So I would say, having grown up in Nashville, it's something I highly recommend to anybody, to move back to a city that you think you're never going to go back to, because it will never be the way you think it will.
And finally, since, as I mentioned before, Ann was one of the first editors of BookPage, what was your favorite part of that job?
A BookPage? Oh God, BookPage was the greatest job I ever had and ever will have. It was amazing to come back to Nashville after working in book publishing, be in a job where every single book being published in the entire publishing world came to your door every day. You could see everything being published. You could meet the most amazing people, because I think book publishing has an amazing world of people. And I loved everything about it. There was nothing I didn't love. It was an amazing experience. I still, as you can tell, all these years later, slightly grateful not to be working at BookPage.
Oh.
So you guys are so lucky. That's all I have to say. Relish it. It doesn't come often.
We are so lucky that you've written a novel, and really, I can, having started over the weekend, it's a really fun book, a sad book too, but really, there's some hilarious dialogue that really draws you in from the beginning. So, thank you so much, Ann, and good luck with your book launch.
Thanks.